Yes, a very good afternoon to all of you. Right, so we've completed with the chapter 1, right? That's regarding the introduction to the business communication, in which we saw the other day in the last class, right? Regarding the types of communication based on the purpose and the style, right? So there we said it could be the, yes, formal communication or the informal communication, right? Under the formal communication, we had the vertical communication, right? The senior, the higher authority communicating to the subordinate, or the subordinate communicating, reporting, giving the information to the higher authorities. Then after that we had the horizontal communication, right? People at the same level in the organization, one department with other, right? So that is the horizontal communication. And the third one, we had the diagonal communication, right? So not following any line of hierarchy as required, the direct communication, right? The cross functional communication in the organization, that is the diagonal communication. And then informal communication, where there is no particular format, no rules, no prescribed regulations which are to be followed for the communication. It is casual, it is friendly, and it is an unofficial communication, right? And under the informal communication, we said that it could be just generally there could be the grapevine, right? So there could be these false rumors regarding some false news regarding the company, which could be doing its rounds in the informal communication. But again, informal communication is a very important mode of communication because it meets the social needs of the employees working, and also very important for the health of the organization. Right. Then after that we talked about the barriers to effective communication, that in spite of we trying our best to communicate, why does it happen that sometimes there is a miscommunication, there is a misunderstanding, the receiver, the decoder, right, the listener is not able to understand your message, your intention, yes, your intended message, right? There is some particular misinterpretation, and you're trying to say A and the other person is understanding it as B, right? So what are the barriers to this effective communication? Why not the communication taking place properly, right? Why is not the communication taking place properly, right? So one of the barrier to communication, it says physical barriers, right? That is the noise or so. Then the physiological barrier, which is related to some health related issues, right? The person not feeling well, right? Then after that we also talked about the technology barriers, like say there is no good data connection, so even that could be a barrier to communication. Multitasking, information overload, doing too many things at the same time, that could also be a barrier to effective communication. Then we said the language barrier, the technical terms, you're using the technical jargon, the business terms which the receiver may not understand, or the language or the accent used for the communication could be different, right? So which could lead to a language barrier. Then cultural barrier, right? So different religions, people from different parts of the world, yes, different countries, so again there could be different interpretation of the same word, it could be having different meanings, right? So that could be the cultural barriers, right? So now in the globalized economy, you need to be aware of the cultural differences and be also aware of the culture of that particular country or religion of the people with whom you are dealing with, to overcome the cultural barriers. Right. Then we also talked about the organization structure barriers, that is there is no clear chain of command, and the roles and responsibilities are not clear, you don't know whom to communicate, how to approach that particular person, so again that could be a barrier to communication, right? Then we also talked about the gender barrier, like men and women, they perceive things differently, right? So again, the men, they mainly think in the context of logic and so, right? Whereas women, along with logic, they also have a lot of emotions involved, right? So the way a particular matter is perceived by a man, so the similar manner the matter may not be perceived by the woman, right, to whom you're communicating, right? So that's the gender barrier in the communication. Then after that you have the emotional barriers, right? That is at that particular point of time when the sender or receiver are going through a particular set of emotions, that is they are angry, they are upset, they are disturbed, so these are all what you say negative emotions, right? So which could again be a barrier to communication. Then there could be these attitude barrier, very shy, very what you say introvert type of a person, lazy type of a person, so again not a good attitude, so however effectively I try to communicate with that person is not going to understand anything, right, because of their attitude. Right, then after that, that if it says if the worker is a very self-motivated, proactive worker, motivated worker, then it becomes effective to communicate, right? So that's the attitude barrier of communication and perception. And we said different people, they perceive different things differently, and they perceive the same thing differently, right? So just as we took the example over there of the half glass full and the half glass empty, and so same matter, but different people perceive it differently. So again, that could be a barrier to communication. Right, so that is the perception barrier to communication, and these are the different barriers to communication. And then we also talked about the guidelines to overcome these barriers to communication, where we can always take a reference from our answer for the principles of effective communication. The principles of effective communication, wherein we had seen the 7 C's and the 4 S. Right, so I hope now all of you are pretty comfortable with the unit 1, right, the chapter 1 which we have discussed regarding the introduction to the business communication. So now that brings us to the second chapter for discussion, right, which is regarding the business letters. Right, so now that brings us to the second chapter for our discussion, a very important chapter again. So now we really start with the drafting part. So now the 2, 3, 4, and the 5. 5 is little different. It has pressy writing, report writing, agenda and minutes. Right, but these 3 chapters now, yes, the business letter, business correspondence, and the correspondence with the bank and the insurance company, right, all these are regarding the drafting of the letters. Right, so very important. So now say maybe it may not be a letter, but an electronic form of a letter is an email. And so when you need to draft the letters, right, draft the email, right, what all are the contents, what is the layout, what is the format of the business letter is what we are going to discuss over here. Right, so now theory, like what are the principles and what are the barriers, that is already done. Now we come to the more practical oriented part of it, right, the drafting part of the discussion. Right, so in this particular chapter we are going to be discussing what is the need, what is the function of a business letter, or for that matter any letter. Okay, then points to remember while drafting the formal letters. Right, so in case if you are drafting the formal letter, what points you should take care of in order to ensure that your letter is understood in the right context is a few tips which we are going to see over there. Right, then the core, the most important part of discussion in the chapter is regarding the layout of a business letter. The format of a business letter, the mold of a business letter, the mold, the format in which any business letter, whatever it be regarding, what is the format, the content, the layout of the business letter. Right, so very interesting discussion over here, right, or sincerely, like seriously, it's a very interesting discussion regarding the layout of the business letter. And then once that we know the layout of the business letter, then we talk about the different kinds of business letter, and this point number 4 is only what we elaborate in the next chapter also. So in the next chapter, it is a further extension of this point number 4, right, wherein we talk about the business correspondence. So letter of inquiry, reply, then quotations and tenders, then sales letter, promotion letter, circular, letter of complaint, then reply to a letter of complaint, then customer dues, follow up, recovery, so application for a job. So different types of letters is what we are going to be discussing over here. Right, so what is our objective at the end of this chapter number 2, 3, 4 is that we should become a pro. Any type of letter, business letter to be written, we should be like, ready. We should be like knowing how a business letter is to be written. Okay, and then obviously, practice makes things perfect, right? So as you practice more and more, read more and more, research more and more, apply it more and more, right, you will become more and more better at it. Right, so with that, let's begin with the introduction of the chapter. I hope all of you are sitting straight, right? So very important basic requirement, like they say, food, clothing, shelter is the basic requirement of a human being, right? So for a good, for the good health of an individual, of a person, very important is that the spine should be erect, the spine. Right, so your backbone, right, it has to be straight, right? You cannot study in a manner sitting in a very, teda meda, like a, what do you say, incorrect posture or a, incorrect posture, right? So always ensure. So your mind is also more alert when you are sitting straight. So make it a habit, right? And mainly when you're attending these online classes and the sofa is just next to where you are sitting, and then it's always you find it that, oh, it's more convenient to lie down, or just to sit in a relaxed manner and yes, attend the classes or do the studies. But no, that is not at all good. Okay, right. So let's begin with the need and functions of the business letter, right? You're not in front of me, I always say in all my classes, but I hope that you are very sincerely attending the class, है and I'm keeping that faith in all of you that yes, you are attending the class very, very sincerely, and please ensure that my faith is nothing happens to my faith in all of you, right? That my faith continues to be intact. So if I have a faith that yes, my students are studying properly, so let not there be any deviation or any any carve outs to my faith. Okay, right? So need and function of a business letter, right? So we are first talking about a letter, then an informal letter, then a formal letter, and the formal letter is the one which we refer to as the business letter, right? So letters are a traditional and a popular method of communication, and so in Hindi what you refer to it as the khat, then there's the postman, which is referred to as the dakiya, right? And then you have the letters coming. So earlier, olden days, there used to be this big event, if the postman has come with a letter, and then if the people in the family don't know how to read that letter, then the postman, the post person himself used to read the letter out, and then they used to come to know about the good news or the bad news. And wait, so earlier, communication in ancient times, there was a lot of patience required, there was a lot of waiting time which was involved, and a lot of waiting time which was involved in the communication earlier. Like even though if some person is born somewhere, or somebody dies, or somebody's marriage has been decided, or somebody has cleared the exams, whatever it be, or somebody is traveling from destination A to destination B, whether that person has reached that destination B, again when he lands, gets down over there, and then you find some STD and ISD PCO call booth, and then you make a call, or then you send a telegram, or then there earlier times they used to be showing those pigeons also, flying with the letters in their beak, and then communicating from one person to other. Right, so there used to be like there are times now you can't even imagine that situation, that you're traveling somewhere, or you want some information and you have to wait for it. And there was no Google, there was no YouTube, there was no Facebook, no Instagram, nothing, say some 20-30 years back, or even say 20 years back or so. And even like if you had to call, you had to check, so if you're making a call from say Maharashtra to Karnataka, then the STD rates used to be applicable, right? So 6 rupees per minute. And then slowly after that, after the landline calling, then came the mobile. Then mobile used to be like incoming 6 rupees a minute, and say outgoing 12 rupees a minute. Can you imagine? Incoming calls 6 rupees a minute. Now though it is standardized, incoming calls are always free. Right, and outgoing also some 300-400 rupees you pay for a month, and it becomes unlimited with 1 GB 2 GB data pack or something like that. So there was a lot of waiting time which was involved, which used to build the patience of an individual. And nowadays, there is no, like if you want your results also, like say CA results some 20 years back when they had to be declared, they used to come in the newspaper. So you had to check in the newspaper, what are your results, some 20-30 years back, what the newspaper and your name coming, and the number, roll number and all coming over there. Nowadays, though, it is all internet oriented. Why CA result? For that matter, any exam result. And immediately available. Earlier stock market trading, you could only do it in the physical market. There was no electronic, no BSE India.com, or no NSE, or no Money Control, or no ICICI Securities, or no Sher Khan, or no Angel Broking, or Motilal Oswal, or Anand Rathi Securities, or any of these. All these online portals which you have now for trading. So now on real time basis, and a real time, as and when it is happening, that is here, say some particular program is going on, and you do the video call, and live telecast could be done of that particular program, or any person who is not able to attend the program, you can just do the video call and just show exactly in a live how the program is being, is what is happening at the program, and talk to all family members and relatives and so. And so you understand there is a paradigm shift in the emotional strength which used to be there in the individuals, in the human beings earlier, and now that opportunity is only not there. And there used to be some waiting time, there used to be a lot of patience, there used to be a lot of emotional quotient which used to be very, very high. But now though means every second you are connected to the other person, it's connected to all the entire world through your mobile phone. And so I happened to read one particular message which said that do good deeds, then you will go to heaven, or otherwise you might go to hell or something, right? So the friend says that it doesn't matter. So I just read this message, it doesn't matter whether I go to hell or heaven, as far as there is a data pack and a mobile charger available over there. And so hell or heaven, it says, makes no difference as long as there is a mobile charger and a data pack, right? With my mobile, then I'm happy in my own world. And that is why you see that people are not finding the need also to communicate. And they will connect to each other on Facebook, but they will not connect to each other face to face. And all your school friends and all your distant relatives and friend, and one class you attend, and that friend and this friend, and 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 friends on your Facebook account. But in real life, I don't know whether you can count them on your fingers also, regarding how many friends you have and what emotional connect you have with them, and what good times you enjoy, and how you help each other grow. Right? And how you would be ensuring that you're there for each other in all times, for happy times also, for sad times also, good times also, bad times also. That bonding, that connect is more important than having the 3,000, 4,000 friends on Facebook, or having the following on Instagram, or any such, or having the YouTube subscribers, or anything. And any of these, yes, what is required is that you should be having that, yes, what you say, that mental peace, that particular right composition of the mind to do the right things in life. So very, very important. So just this word letter probably told me, it just clicked to me that let me have a discussion with the today's generation, right? The your generation, the happening generation as such. And so very much thanks to technology that, you're born in an era where there is abundance of technology available. So only that you should be a master of this technology, because at the end of the day, it has been made by a human being, and you should not become a slave to this technology. So even technology should not be your master. You should be the master of technology. That is very, very important. Drawing the line and deciding regarding how much of time I am spending on the digital media, how and what is the contribution of it in my life, right? We need to check. Because every morning our life, we are yes, we have a deposit of 24 hours every day of our life with us, right? So how effectively we utilize those hours, and our working hours, our active hours, say, which are 14, 15 hours out of the 24 hours, right? How effectively we utilize them, right? It is completely our own responsibility. Like Swami Vivekananda has always said that, man is the creator of his own destiny. So yes, and I think I've mentioned it in my first class itself, this particular age, what do you say, time frame in which you people are right now, from the age of 17 to 23, 24, this 7-8 years of your life, determine the next 40 years, it's like the final, now the final phase of your career you are in right now, in terms of your study career, I mean to say, right? In terms of your whatever 40 years, how you'll be spending them after this. So like schooling, junior, kindergarten, senior KG, and then after that the 1st to 10th and 11th, 12th, and now comes the what do you say, the specialization type. Okay, what, in which particular field do you specialize? right? So all possible what you say training programs and courses which are available, the social activities which you can participate, and all any particular NGO or any particular your community program which is going on, or any books which you can read, or any library which you can visit and spend 3-4 hours over there, or any meditation or yoga, or any marathon which you can run any type, like say swimming or football or tennis or badminton. It could be just anything, but it has to be a 360-degree dimensional growth of you as an individual, and a 360-degree dimensional growth. Okay, right. So letters are a traditional and a popular method of communication. A letter is a written message. So again, now verbal communication, which is sent from one party to another and obviously contains some important information. Right. Letter performs the function of bringing friends or relatives closer together. Your friends, your relatives closer together, enhancing professional relationships. So informal communication, bringing friends or relatives together. Formal communication, enhancing the professional relationships, and provide a means of the self-expression, right? So you can communicate your thoughts through the through the letter, right? Through the words, through the written message, right? And then there are two types of letters, the formal and the informal letters. Right, so informal letters are the letters written to people who we are familiar with, letters that is our relatives and friends. Right, so if you write a letter to your mother, say you are away from your hometown right now, so not necessary, that right now only every evening you call up your mother, and every evening your mother has always told you that please at least once a day make a call to me. And at 7 o'clock when you come back to your hostel, when you come back to your room, please make a call to me. Right, so you make a call to your mother, to your father, brother, sister. So this time say maybe as a surprise, and you write a letter to them. Dear mom, and then all these 16 17 years of life I've always been living with you, and now this is the first time that I've been living away, and then whatever is your local dialect in whichever language you communicate, and in that particular language you could write the letter, or say simply it's the birthday, so you can just make a greeting card which you used to make in school days. So say some happy birthday greeting card to any of your family members. Why only mom? Yes, any of your family members, to your grandmother, grandfather, uncle, auntie, whomsoever you have a connect with, right? And you send that particular letter. Just maybe you may not do it routinely, but just as a try. And just as a one-off experience for them also, that they have received a letter. How much, like I can just imagine, how much your family members will treasure that particular letter. So some of you may think that no, they'll think what is wrong with you, like why you are going back to the good olden days. But again, your intent, so the sender's intent has to be right. If the intent is right, then the decoder will obviously understand it in the right context also. And sincerity is very important. We just studied principles of effective communication. So if you write it out of a lot of sincerity and with a lot of genuineness, credibility with it, obviously the opposite person, that credibility and the sincerity with which you write that letter would pass on to the receiver also. Okay, right. So they are used for casual and personal communication. Right. While writing informal letters, we can make use of a impersonal and emotional tone. So the food you cook or whatever, that you have a lot of aspirations from me. I know what all struggle you have done for me in life, and I will surely ensure that one day you will be proud of me or something. So there could be a personal emotional tone in that letter. Right, you write dear, dearest, and you could be using just if it's a formal letter, you can only write dear sir or dear madam. But in a formal letter you cannot write dearest sir or dearest madam. But informal letter, yes, you can certainly write it as the dearest or so. Okay, the language and the tone of the letter depends on the level of comfort. Right, so if you're writing to your distant uncle whom you have not been talking to, who don't know him that very individually, then there would be some sort of a formality which you'll keep in that letter. But if you're writing it to your sister, mother, brother or so, then obviously it will be having more of a emotional content or more of a familiarity content. Right, so depends on the level of comfort and the familiarity between the sender and the recipient. Right, no specific format prescribed for writing the informal letter. So no format for the informal letters. Right, now we come to the formal letters, because this is going to be our core discussion. Right, the formal letters which are used for official professional communication, and which are used for the professional communication. Right, they are written with a particular well defined objective or a set of objectives in mind, and not for the sake of random arbitrary correspondence. I just thought of like writing to you, or just thought of like sending a message to you, so I just sent a message, hi, how are you? You can't just randomly send a letter to your boss asking, hi, how are you? And so not for the sake of arbitrary correspondence, it is particular, and it is for a well defined objective or a set of objectives in mind, right? So there has to be a clear purpose behind writing a formal letter, and it is for official professional communication, and there has to be a formal purpose, there has to be a reason, an objective, a well defined objective behind writing a formal letter. Right, as opposed to informal letters, there is a manner prescribed, right? So you have a fixed format, you have a prescribed format for writing the formal letters, and a prescribed format for writing the formal letters. These letters are concise, right? So you cannot write a 7-page letter to your boss. They have to be concise and written in a specific format. That's what I said, a prescribed format using a formal language. Right, so no informal, no emotional tone in the letter, right? It says a formal language. Right, the term formal letter encompasses any letter written for a formal purpose. Right, so intended, right, a set of objective, well defined objective, whether it is a recommendation letter, a complaint letter, a job application, or a letter to the editor. So any official professional communication. Right, formal letters are used mainly for two purposes. Right, first is that they open channels for communication which will aid, which will help you in receiving a desirable response while solving a problem, making preparations and inquiring about products and services. Right, so you want to open the channel of communication, so you are inquiring about a product or service, or informing about a product or service, or mentioning about a particular problem. Right, and they can be used for official records of communication between two parties, so that if there is a dispute or confusion, you can support your case with the documentary evidence. Right, so you're offering your product for sale, so for that you can write a sales promotion letter. You can write a sales letter, a promotion letter, and now the other party has purchased your product, but they are not at all happy with your product. There is some defect in the product which they purchased, and for that they write a complaint letter. So sales letter is one type, and then the complaint letter, and then the reply to the complaint letter, that is the other type of the formal letter. And so one is to open the matter, to open a communication channel, and second is to resolve any dispute or confusion. So already there is a communication channel, already sales have been done, but now there is some problem. Already goods have been sold on credit to the customer, but now the customer is not paying on the due date. And now the customer, it's been more than 2 months, that's the amount is overdue, and the customer is not yet paying. He had said he'll pay after 2 months. Now after 2 months, more 2 months are over, but still the customer has not paid. And after 2 months, more 2 months are over, but still the customer has not paid. Right, so then again in that case you could write the formal letter. Right, formal letters, one, the business or the official letters. Right, for making inquiry, registering complaints, asking for and giving information, placing or cancelling orders, and sending replies in response to inquiries or complaints, etc. And so say you had done some hotel booking on 20th of January 2020, and for traveling somewhere on say 25th of March 2020. So that time you had placed an order, or you had done a reservation booking at some particular, say some travel booking or some hotel booking or so. And now 25th of March was your travel date or your stay date, and then 25th of March we were all under a lockdown. So whatever booking you had done at that point of time, now you need to cancel that particular booking, or you can say that due to the government imposed lockdown, the travel on this date or the stay on this date is not possible, so kindly permit that within the next, whenever the lockdown is lifted, right, whenever it has been lifted by the government, later on within a period of 1 year, we could be, yes, you could allow us to change the date. So that's regarding the placing or cancelling any order, sending replies in response to inquiries or complaint. Right, so one is letter of inquiry, then reply to letter of inquiry. Right, then there is complaint letter, then reply to letter of complaint. So two-way communication. Right, then letters highlighting civic problem, letter to the editor, letter to the concerned authorities regarding civic problem. So any regarding some garbage collection in your area, or water supply problem in your area, or lot of street dogs, creating a nuisance in that particular area. So any of these matters, it says again, you could be writing a letter. And also the job applications. And very soon you will have to be writing these cover letters, wherein you will be applying for a job. And along with that cover letter applying for a job, you'll also have to attach your resume, your bio data, your curriculum vitae. And you will have to attach along with the cover letter for the job application. Right, so this is just an introduction to the chapter of the business letter. Right, now what points should be kept in mind? I hope all of you are with me, right? All of you carefully listening to me. Right, so the next one. What points are to be kept in mind while drafting the formal letters? As I've already told you, the more and more you practice, apply, research, the more and more you will become a pro at it. But just some technical points to be kept in mind, right? So use the specified format, the prescribed format, and no writing in your own format or as per your own decoration. No, it's a formal communication, official communication, professional communication. So it has to be in the specified format. Right, then leave a line, additional space between the paragraph, and don't write too much next to each other. It says leave proper space line between the paragraph. Okay, then state your reason for writing in your first paragraph. Right, so after the the initial draft of the letter, and to dear sir, madam, subject and all that. Now in the first para of your letter, that is the introduction paragraph, you have to clearly state the reason for writing in your first paragraph itself. Cannot happen that you're writing and that receiver of the letter, the reader of the letter is not understanding why you are writing to me. The first line itself, you should understand the purpose of the writing. Your objective while composing a formal letter should be to present the key facts as quickly and as simply as you can. Right? So quickly and simply. Don't try to build suspense or surprise or make them read the entire letter. It's not like a novel. Okay? At the end of the novel, you come to know that who had committed the crime or who had done the murder. Okay, you're quickly and simply as soon as possible. Then keep the language simple and a simplicity. Again, we had studied in the principles of effective communication. Keep the language simple. Right, formal does not mean complicated. How beautifully written. Formal does not mean complicated. You can be simple even in your formal communication. Use simple language that is easy to read and understand. Right, so simple language. We keep it very simple. Okay, at all times, add the details and the information that will make the addressee, the receiver's task easy. And so add all details, information which would be required for the receiver to take action or to understand what you're writing about in the letter itself. Right, so all details and information should be written. Right, if you're writing to an organization to apply for a job, right, mention the post you are applying for along with your qualification and experience. If you are writing to a service center, mention specifics such as model number, year of purchase, invoice number, etc. Right, about the product along with the description of the problem you are facing. So like if somebody writes that I have purchased the classes, I have purchased some video classes and I am facing an issue. Now I have purchased the classes and I am facing an issue. This is so, incomplete sort of a communication or information. You have purchased classes, but which classes? For which subject, which version, whether you've purchased the regular classes, the revision classes, the amendment classes, which classes have you purchased? And now you're facing an issue. So what issue are you facing? Is it some hardware, some software, some expiry related, the product is getting expired related to issue, you want to get it renewed? Is there some technical problem, the key is not getting activated? So I have purchased the classes and I am facing the issue. Now you are not giving the complete information in your complaint letter. है ना. The complete information should be provided by the writer of the letter in that particular letter, है ना, so that the address, the receiver, the addressee will understand the entire detail, right, regarding what is it the letter is about. Right, so in the first line itself it says, make it clear the purpose, the reason for which you are writing the letter, and as simple. So formal does not mean complicated. Then if you wish to make a reference to previous letter, so say already you had written a letter and now no reply, so you're writing a letter again. So it says, make a reference to previous letters or conversation, payments, etc. Provide details such as date, invoice number, quotation, check numbers, etc. So if it's a trail mail, and if it is linked to some chain mail, some earlier mails which were already, or letters written in relation to the same, it says please give a reference to the earlier letter. And also, like you say, it's a letter of order letter, an inquiry letter, and now the reply to the letter of inquiry. So now in the reply to the letter of inquiry, in the reply to the letter of inquiry, you should make a reference to the letter of inquiry. Okay, which inquiry are you replying to? If you are replying to a letter of complaint, to which complaint letter are you replying to? Right, so that reference should be given. And that reference should be given. Right, so replying. Then always be gentle and courteous. Right, so courteous, and we had discussed about courtesy again being a principle of effective communication, right, while directing the receiver's course of action. Right, and do not forget to be polite, even if it is a complaint letter that you are writing. So courteous, polite, gentle, it says always, and always required. Right, do not forget to be polite, even if it is a complaint letter that you are writing. Right, then check to ensure that your letter is free from any mistakes, grammatical or spelling. This we had studied in the effectiveness of written communication also. Your writing style, no rich vocabulary, right? Then also the no grammar or spelling mistakes, because that irritates, that irritates the reader. Okay, right? So these are just some tips, some points which you should keep in mind while drafting the formal letter. Right, so one, the introduction, then after that now the points for writing the formal letter, and now we come to the main part of the discussion, the layout, the format of the formal letter. Right, now we come to the layout, right, the format, right, the format of the formal letter. Right, the format of the formal letter. Right, so now we are going to do an in-depth study, right, regarding the format of the formal letter. I hope all of you are paying attention to me. Right, so now the beginning of the formal letter, right, so I have to write a formal letter. Right, the beginning of the formal letter begins with the sender. Right, if I am writing the letter, then the details will begin, right, it will begin with writing about myself. Right, so the name and address of the sender, right, so the complete address or the contact details must be added at the top, right, the sender's complete address. Right, so heading is very important. So heading in the context, I mean the sender's name and address. Right, the sender's name and address. Right, what do I mean by heading over here? The sender's name and the address. Then it also talks about any reference number if you're referring to any previous communication, and also the date. And so in the heading they are actually mentioning about these 3 points. Right, what does it say? The heading is a very important component of a letter as it contains vital information. Right, so right now we are studying it in pieces. So maybe some things you might understand them completely, some things might happen that you don't get a complete clarity, absolute clarity on it right now. But wait for, it's like a puzzle that we are solving right now. Right, so let all the pieces of the puzzle be discussed, and then at the end when you are able to see it as a holistic whole, I think then you will be able to get a better sense of understanding. And so in case if something is happening like no, this point not getting but little bit understood, then that little bit is also enough for the time being. So I'm just giving you a clarity that in case if it happens with you, and that you are saying that no, what about it? So wait, let us see. So next chapter, and after that the chapter, we are just going to be discussing formats of business letters. So after seeing some 20, 30, 40, 50 formats of the letter, certainly all your doubts are going to be clarified, right? But as we discussed in the beginning today, patience is very, very important. and a patience, waiting time, very, very important, right? Not jumping to a conclusion, and not having a rush of blood, not good. Okay, right? So vital information of the company, that is the sender, any reference number and the date, right? So that's what I've written, the sender's name and address, right? The reference number and the date. Right, so the sender's complete address or the contact details, that is even the phone number, mobile number, must be added at the top. Right, and in case if I'm writing on the letterhead of the company, letterheads of company, pre-printed, the name of the company, the name of the company, the address of the company, right? The mobile, fax, landline, website, all, the logo of the company, and a logo of the company, all that already pre-printed. Then this particular heading, the particular sender's name and address need not be given. And you can directly start with the further content. In that case, you can directly say start with the date. So in that case, there is no need to give the sender's name and address. Sender's name and address may not be given if it is on the letterhead of the company. Why? Because it's already given. So that's why it's already the letterhead where name of company and the address is given. Then why write it again? Then no need to write it again. Right. However, it's not on the letterhead of the company. It's on a blank A4 page. Then you have to add the sender's name and address. Right. So sender's name and address. Right. So E603 Surya Vihar, Kapas Hera border, Gurgaon, and then November 3, 2021. And a November. Right. You cannot write NOV. There is no NOV. There is no OCT. There is no JUL. No writing short forms of the months. No writing the short form of the months, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, and a full month ka spelling to be written, right? Then November 3, no writing third, RD, what we do it as the superscript over there, or first or 20th, that ST or RD or TH, all this not to be put. And the year, right? So November 3, 2021, or you could also write it as 3 November 2021. Any of the two format for writing the date. Right. So Mohan Bhatt, right? So that's the name of the sender, name of the sender, right? And then after that I have the address of the sender. Address of the sender, that is who is writing the letter. And so if I am writing the letter, my name Aarti Lahoti, and then you give the address, whatever, say you give the address as G405 Surya Vihar, Kapas Hera border, Gurgaon, and then the date, right? And then the date, right? So name of the sender and the address of the sender, the person who is writing the letter. Right, that is the first one, the heading, right? So sender's name and address, right? Then date, they've made a reference to it over there also, and there is a separate point in which they've discussed also, a date line, right? So first you have the sender's name and address, so format of the business letter, right? So I want everybody also to keep on taking down some notes. A format of the business letter, right? So first one is what over there, the sender's address, name and address, both, either name or only address could be given, or the name could also be given, right? So name and address. So if name is not given, at least address, name and address, or only address could be given, right? So sender's name and address, right? Then after that we are talking about the date. If it's on the letterhead of the company, no need to give the sender's name and address. You can directly start with the date. Right, it is important to add the dates, because if you want to communicate further and refer to the earlier communication, then adding the date can make it easy for you to maintain a record of your letters. Right, the date line is normally typed, say 3 lines beneath the letterhead. So that's not hard and fast as such. Right, so there are two ways in which the date can be written. right? So 3 November 2021 or November 3 2021, right? So whatever is the date, and let's say you can write the date as say December 4 2022, whatever is the date of your communication, right? So that's the date. Then after that, now the inside address. So earlier what I have written on the top is the sender's address. Now here I am going to write the receiver's name and address, right? The receiver's name and the address, receiver's name and address, right? So the inside address of the recipient, the address of the addressee, so to whom you are addressing your communication, your letter, is always written on the left hand margin. So we are going to see the format also, left margin, what comes under right margin or so, and the left hand margin of the letter. The name of the recipient together with the designation is also spelled out. So the receiver's name, the receiver's designation, and also the address of the receiver could also be given. Right. The job title is written on the same line after a comma, right, or it is written on the next line in the inside address. Right. So these details are accompanied by the full address of the reader, full address of the addressee, full address of the receiver, whatever you call it. Right, so the Emeritus Company, E405 Surya Vihar, Kapas Hera Border, Gurgaon 122002. Right, so what is this? This is the sender's name and address. Yes, sender's name and address. Right, then after that you have the date and the reference number. So which earlier correspondence document is to be referred to, that could also be given. And then after that, now you have over here the receiver's, yes, the receiver's name, right, the receiver's address, and what you could also be giving over here is the receiver's designation, could also be given, not that it should be, right, but designation could also be given. Sunil Mehta, MD, Managing Director, right? So the name, the designation and the address. Right, so receiver's name, designation, address, right? So sender's name and address, date, then there might be a reference number, not hard and fast. It might be there if there is any reference number. If not there, then no reference number coming over there. And then after that you have the inside line. Right, so what is this inside line? Left hand margin which you need to write. You need to write the receiver's name, the receiver's designation, and you need to write the receiver's address. Perfect. The receiver's name, designation and address. Right, so sender's name and address, and then the receiver's name, designation, address. Yes, is everybody getting it so far? Right, then attention line. So in case if it is, for the finance department, accounts department, but such a big company, 4,000 people working over there, and you're sending a letter. So for whom is the letter? For which department? For whose, for which particular department? So person, so anyways we have written the addressee. But that particular person is in which department, right? So you could mention as attention finance department, all caps, and a colon over here, right? Or you could simply mention it in small also, saying that attention finance department, right? An attention line is used in the letter when it is addressed to a department in the company instead of a specific person, right? So when you want to address it to a department, right, rather than a person in the company. It helps in expediting the process. Otherwise, that letter will keep on moving from one person to other. This line is always typed below the address and above the salutation. So right now we've just written the receiver's address. So just below that. Right, again it begins in the left hand margin. Its format is as follows: attention finance department or attention finance department. Right, the attention line can be written in capital or in italics or underlined if done on computer, or it can be in bold also. Right, so italics, underline, capital, or it could be in the bold also. Right, so the next line which we have, the next content of the business letter which we have is the attention line. Right, when your letter is to be addressed to a particular department rather than any particular person, and rather than any particular person, right? So that's the attention line. Right, then after the attention line, now you have the opening salutation. Right, so now I hope all of you are continuing to write with me. Right, so now after the attention line, what is the next content of the business letter which we are having over there? The opening salutation. है ना? Dear sir, dear madam. Right, the opening salutation. Right, so the salutation is an important part of the letter and must be added at the beginning. है ना? So sender's name and address, date, reference number, receiver's name, designation, address, attention line, and then after that you have the opening salutation, dear sir or dear madam. Right, if you do not name the name of the person you are writing to, then use this. And if you do not know the name of the person, then what do you say? Dear sir or dear madam. Right, dear sir or dear madam. And dear sir. Right, or you could call it as the dear madam. Right, or if you don't know whether it is sir or madam, then you write dear sir oblique madam. Right, so it is, if you do not know the name of the person, then you are, if to whom you are writing, then write this, dear sir or dear madam or sir oblique madam. However, it is, to give a personalized effect to your communication, right, it is always advisable to try and find out the name of the person you are writing to. So it's always recommended that you try to find out the name of the person, and of course it goes without saying that the name of the person should be correctly spelled. And so you have to be very careful with the spelling. Right, so now if I know the name of the person, then I can't write dear Shetty. Then I have to use the title, dear Mr. Shetty. Right, so it could be Mr., Miss, Mrs., Miss, right, Doctor, etc. along with the surname only. Right, so I can't write dear Mr. Vikas. And say if the name of this person is Vikas Shetty, then I can't write it as dear Mr. Vikas. If I know the name of the person, I use the surname. And so dear Mr. Shetty. And dear Mr. Shetty. Right, so that is the opening salutation. Right, so if I do not know the name of the person, just give me a moment, I'll use a different color. If I do not know the name of the person, then I say dear sir, or I could use it as the dear madam or dear sir oblique madam. But I know that it's a male or female. Then if I know it's a male, dear sir. If I know it's a female, dear madam. I don't know even that, whether it's a male or female. Then I write dear sir oblique madam. And if I know the name of that person, then I write the name of the person along with Mr., Mrs., and a Miss or Miss, right? Or Doctor along with the surname, and not along with the name. And so Mr., Mrs., Miss, Doc, yes, Doctor, CA also can be used as a prefix before the name, right, plus the surname. Right, so opening salutation, right, so it comes as dear, right, so if you know the name, so dear, and here also dear Mr. Shetty, and so in our example, dear Mr. Shetty. Right, if you know the name, use the title, Mr., Miss, Mrs., Miss, Doctor, etc. along with the surname only. Now, there are several ways in which the salutation is written. Right, if an attention line has been used, attention finance department, and the name of the addressee is either not known or not put in the letter, then the salutation should be in the form of madam, colon, sir, colon. Or you could write it as dear madam or dear sir also. Right, in business and formal letters, there is always a colon that is used after the salutation, whereas in formal letters a comma could be used, right? So it says it's better to use a colon. Okay, however, the trend is, they keep on changing. You many a time see right now that they also write dear sir, comma or so. Right, now coming to this is opening salutation. Now coming to the body. So dear sir, so far we've reached up to what? Dear sir. Right, now after dear sir, it says now what next two things you need to write? The subject line and the message. The subject line and then the message. Right, so dear sir, and then it says the body of the letter, the main content of the letter. And this main content of the letter divided under two. What is two? Subject line and the message. Right, well, the opening sets the pace for the letter. The body or the middle sustains the interest. The body of the letter has two parts, the subject line and the message. Okay, right, now subject line. So dear sir, that is the opening salutation, or dear madam. And now the subject is mentioned immediately after the salutation. Right? The subject is mentioned immediately after the salutation. It is a brief statement of the issue or the matter the letter is being written for. So subject is mentioned immediately after the salutation, right? So now the next point which I have over there is the subject line. And now subject line, so inside line, attention line, opening salutation, and now we have the subject line. Right, so subject line, it is mentioned immediately after the salutation. It is a brief statement of the issue or the matter the letter is being written for. And a brief statement, okay, what is the letter about? It must attract the attention of the receiver and help him understand quickly what the letter is all about. So the crux, what is this letter about? That should be understood by reading the subject line. Right. It is written in a manner almost similar to the attention line. Either it is written in capitals or underlined. Right. It is starts on the left hand margin and the word subject is always followed by a colon. Right. So subject training review. So italics, or subject bold and training review. Right. It may be noticed that unlike the word attention, the word subject is not underlined or typed in italics. And a subject is not underlined or typed in italics. And a training review is written in italics. And so subject, colon, and then training review. And so it could be written in bold, right? Or it could be either written in capital or underlined, or it could be written in bold also. But subject itself is not written in italics, right? It's the word attention may be written in this. Unlike the word attention, the word subject is not underlined or typed in italics. Right? So attention, can I write it in italics or can I underline it? Yes, but what does it say? Subject, can you underline or write it in italics? No. That's just a format which is given over there. And that's just the format which is to be followed. Right. So now so far what we have seen in the contents, the format of the business letter, formal letter, sender's name and address, date. Right, reference number, then the receiver's name, designation and address, then the attention. In case if the name of the receiver of the letter is not known, the name of the person is not known, you refer to the department. Then opening salutation, dear sir, madam, if you don't know the name. If you know the name, then dear whatever, Mr., Mrs., Miss, doctor, and the surname. Right, then the subject line with the colon, and very quickly, so that you can attract the attention of the receiver and he can understand what is the letter about. What in a very brief manner should be written the subject line. In a very brief statement of the issue or matter the letter is being written for. Right, so that's the subject line. Now we come to the main message, and the content of the main message is divided under 3 paragraphs over there. And an introduction, the body and the conclusion. Right, so now we come to the main message, and this main message ka content is, now it says, generally divided under these 3 paragraphs. What are these 3 paragraphs over there? The introduction, then the main one, right, main crux of it, the body, and then you have the conclusion. Right, the introduction, the body and the conclusion. Right, so the introductory paragraph of a formal letter should always be written in a concise manner. And a very good, we have studied the principles of effective communication in the beginning only, because okay ma'am, now we know for sure, concise, simple, all that is important, and a correctness. Right, so in a concise manner, it should be simply and quickly. Oh, they like these words, they keep on saying simply and quickly. Summarize the point. What, yes, that you want the point, you want the reader to focus on. Right, summarize the point that you want the reader, yes, that you want the reader to focus on or act on. These words have come extra over there. Right, so you can just simply scratch that. Yes, put a strike through to that point. Right, the point that you want the reader to focus or act on. Right, the point that you want these, right, so these words we need to eliminate and delete it from there. Right, so eliminate these. Okay, right, so it simply and quickly summarizes the point that you want the reader or the the receiver, the addressee of the letter to focus or act on. Right, so introduction. Right, then the main body, then the main, the main content of the letter should contain the key points as the message that you want to convey. Right, add all the required details. So that, like what I gave you example, that I have purchased video classes and facing an issue. So what video classes you purchased and what issue are you facing, and when did you purchase the class, and what are the detail? Nothing given. Right? So it says add all the required detail, but do not exaggerate. My God, some people, they just don't come to the point. They'll just keep on beating around the bush, talking about the Mars, talking about Venus, talking about Pluto, talking about Neptune, talking about Uranus, talking about some new unidentified heavenly bodies or something, but they will not talk about Earth. And then they'll talk about the entire Milky Way, they'll talk about the entire universe, but they'll not talk about the matter under consideration, not up to the point, not precise, not hitting the target. So it says do not exaggerate, do not pull it and unnecessarily drag the topic. Use simple language that is easy to read and understand. So simple language, okay. Right? Simplicity, it says the best success formula, for formal communication. Right? Conclusion. Right? The conclusion is a declaration of the writer's purpose of writing. Right? So why I told you, you gave an introduction, then the details and all. Why I am telling you all of this? What I am expecting, expectations from the receiver. Okay, what next reply, what I expect from you, right? That he thinks the next step should be required, and further actions that he may take. What he thinks the next step, right? So in case if it's a complaint letter, I expect a replacement of the product, right? And if you don't give a replacement, then I can further file a case against you with the consumer cell and with the consumer court, and further actions that he may take. Right? Moreover, the writer should always hope for a positive reaction or reply. So awaiting a positive response from your side. You see many a time such a sentence you would have read in a formal letter. Awaiting a response, or waiting and thanking you in anticipation. Have you heard these terms before? Have you read such sentences before? Thanking you in anticipation of a positive reply. Right? So thanking you in anticipation, or hoping for a positive response from your side. Right? Or hoping for a positive reply or a positive response from your side. Positive reply, response from your side. From your end. And you could also be using the terms like thanking you with warm regards, etc. before signing off. Right? So thanking you with warm regards, thanking you in anticipation, so thanking you, with warm regards, with the right warm regards. Right? So any such terms you could be using in the conclusion part of the message of the report. Right? So say examples they've given over there. The concluding lines for a job application. So you're writing a letter wherein you're applying for a job, and now conclusion. What does it say? Conclusion mein what all should be there? Right? The writer's purpose of writing. Okay, why I am writing a letter to you. Expectations from the receiver. So I am writing a letter, I have some intention. So what I expect from you, or what he thinks should be the next step, and further actions that he may take. So this could be what could be mentioned in the conclusion. Right, so the concluding lines for a job application may be, I will be readily available for a personal interaction anytime as per your convenience in case my candidature is considered for the aforesaid post. Oh, what a wonderful sentence. What does it say? I will be readily available for a personal interaction. So if you call, if you select me, I am anytime ready to come as per your convenience for an interview. So that's the action which you expect the receiver to take, that select me and then call me for an interview. I would be readily available, right, for a personal interaction anytime as per your convenience. In case my candidature is considered for the aforesaid post. So what post you are applying for, what are your qualification, experience, all that you would have written in the body, in the main content of the letter. Okay, right? Or say the concluding lines for a letter of complaint. So now you're complaining about something, may be worded as follows. Right, it is apparent from the condition of the machine that it is a defective piece. So it is clear that it's a defective piece. Since the date of purchase is well within the guaranteed period, the date of purchase is still within the guarantee period, I would like it to be replaced with a new one, but of the same model at the earliest. Right? So what is the plan of action you want the receiver to take? You have mentioned it in the conclusion. and what is the action which you want, which you expect the receiver to take. You have mentioned it in the conclusion. Right, so introduction, body, and the conclusion, and then we have the complementary closing. Right, so after the main message in the letter, right, what is the next point which we have over there now? Right, we have the complementary closing. Right, I hope all of you are making a note of these points along with me. Right, now next point which we have over there is the complimentary closing. Yours respectfully, yours truly, yours sincerely, with appreciation, with sincere appreciation, with sincere thanks. Right, so complimentary close is the term prior to your signature in a letter. Prior to your signature, you have written the letter. So before that, this is the complimentary close. Right, this sign off phrase, like signing off, that type of a phrase shows your respect and appreciation for the person who is considering the request in your letter. And as you make that opposite person feel good, yours sincerely, yours faithfully, and yours truly. Right, so shows respect and appreciation for the person to whom you are sending the letter. Right, the following options are all good ways to close a formal letter. And so it says any of these, considering, depending upon the subject or the matter which you are writing upon, accordingly you can use these phrases. Right, so what does it say? Yours respectfully, yours sincerely. Many a times we use this, yours sincerely. Yours sincerely, yours truly, with appreciation, with sincere appreciation, with sincere thanks. Right, so the close varies in the tone and style. It is contingent upon the salutation. Salutation, you remember, dear sir, dear madam, dear Mr. Shetty. So opening salutation. With a change in the latter, right, that is the salutation, the complimentary close also undergoes a change. Right, some examples are, so if I'm writing dear Morohini, but again what did we say? What we studied in one content over there, preferably the name should not be used. You should be using the surname. Okay, but in case if say the dear Mr. Shetty has been used, then you can write cordially. And a dear Mr. Say Rena has been used, then sincerely. Madam, sir, simply you've written madam or sir, then yours truly. Dear sir, yours faithfully. Right? Dear sir, respectfully yours. Right? Or just to keep it safe, you can simply continue to use yours sincerely or yours truly. And yours sincerely would always be good in most of these circumstances as a standardized one. And yours sincerely. Okay. And after the complimentary close, it is worth noting that there is a comma that is to be used. So yours sincerely, and then you put a comma over there. Right? A comma could be used. Right. Then after this complimentary closing, right? So which one did we select out of that? Right? We could be using it as yours sincerely. And yours sincerely, or you could be saying it as, right, say yours respectfully, yours truly, and a different complimentary closing which you could be using. And then after that, now we have the signature. Right, now after this we have the signature. Whose signature we are going to have over here? Yes, everybody, please pay attention. Right, whose signature are we going to be having over here? Signature. I am writing the letter, so obviously my signature would be coming over here along with my name and designation. And a designation, again, if required, it could be given, but the name. And a signature along with the name. And have I given the sender's name and address at the top? Have I given the sender's name and address at the top? Right, so here say sender's name I have written as, say example, particular Mr. Rohan Bhatt. Rohan Bhatt, right? So now obviously over signature over here I have to ensure that it is of Rohan Bhatt and not of Rohini and Arora. It can't be a mismatch. Obviously whatever is the sender's name and address, but there it could be the name of the company, and here it could be the name of the individual of that company along with this designation. And if it's the name of individual on the top, sender's name and address, that same name of sender should be coming under the signature. If it is name of company, then here you could be writing the name of the sender, right, along with the designation of the sender. Right, so the writer after the complimentary close puts his or her signature in handwriting, which is followed by the identification, that is the job title and the name of the department of work. Right, so along with the designation, right, the writer's identification below the signature can be typed on a letter in the following ways. Right, so signature, so first what will come with the be the signature, and then Anand Kaul, Vice President, Marketing Department. And so designation also and department also, or only Anand Kaul, the designation, or Anand Kaul, the designation and the department written one after the other. And written one after the other, and obviously the close must always complement again the salutation. And dear sir, madam, again it has to complement the same, right? Again it has to complement the same, right? The signature, right? So over here we are having the signature, right? So in the signature, one, the yes, the signature itself would be there, and signature would be given along with the name, the designation, and the department, and or the department of the sender. And the name, designation, department of the sender, right? The name, the designation, the department of the sender. Okay. Then, so here actually the report ka, the letter ka content gets over, but now it says there could be some additional contents also along with your letter, right? That is, there could be the references, the enclosures, the notation, and the postscript. Right, so now what are the next 4 points which we have over there? Right, we have the references, right, we have the enclosures, right, we have the notation. So these are like not compulsory ones, these might come, that may not come, right? And you have the postscript, right, the postscript, and then we are going to study about the spacing and the punctuation style, right? So those are again 2 additional attributes of a business letter, right? The spacing and the punctuation style, right? The spacing, and then after that you also have the punctuation style. Okay, right? So enclosures, like I told you, if you are applying for a job, so the cover letter for the job, along with that what will be enclosed along with it, right? Your CV, you know, your curriculum vitae, your bio data will be attached along with it, right? So any such enclosures, you know, which are there along with the, right, along with the letter, those you can make a yes, those you can mention over here, you know, any enclosures, right? Then it says any references. And reference initials are used only if the writer's name is not included in the letter. And the writer's name, so if writer's name, sender's name is already there, the sender's name and address and signature also, then no need to give this reference, right? So if writer's name, so you get it written from somebody else, right, not there in the letter, then you make use of the references. Right, when the writer's name, now in the beginning also we had seen reference number, but that reference number was relating to some earlier document or letter which you are referring to. Some earlier letter which you are referring to, that reference number was there at the heading. Now here we are talking about the references. Right, when the writer's name is omitted from the letter, the initials are written first and are followed by the typist ka initial. So whosoever has typed the letter. If there are 3 initials, the first indicates the person who has signed the letter, right? The person who has signed the letter, right? The second indicates initials belong to a person who wrote the letter, right? So who has actually written the letter, and the third indicates who has typed it, right? The reference initials can be put in either of these 3 forms. Right, so because many a times you get the work done from a secretary or so, a typist or so, right? So the boss, he tells, boss is going to sign the letter, right? But who has written the letter, say the secretary, and who has typed the letter, say the typist. I know. So in that case, the initials of all 3 of them would be coming over there, right? So first initials of the person who signed the letter, second person who wrote the letter, and third initials of the person who has typed the letter. Right, so again these are like way time back, you know, but they are there in the theory of the chapter, right? So that's regarding the references, right? Then you have the enclosures, right? So what is that coming under the references over here? First, the person who signed the letter, then second, the person who wrote the letter, and third, the person who typed the letter. And signed the letter, wrote the letter, and typed the letter. It could be all the 2 or all the 3 which could be coming. Then enclosures, right? When something is affixed to the letter in the same envelope, you know, when something is affixed to the letter, attached to the letter in the same envelope, an enclosure notation is used, right? This helps the receiver to ascertain that all the references made to in the letter have been attached, right? The manner of writing this notation and as follows. So enclosure, enclo, है ना, ENCL dot, and enclosures with a semicolon. है ना. So whatever documents have been attached along with the letter, है ना, whatever is affixed along with the letter, है ना, all those enclosures, है ना, so bio data or the details of the purchase invoice or sales invoice or whatever, है ना, enclosures could be given over here, right? So that is the enclosures. Then there could be notations like the what you have in your email also, the CC, carbon copy, and a carbon copy, or sometimes you also have the blind carbon copy. And so those notations they are talking about over here, the CC or the BCC, and the carbon copy or the blank carbon copy. Right, so what does it say over here? There may be number of copies of the original letter meant for different people. And details should be indicated in the letter through which the recipient also gets to know the people who will be reading this letter. So he comes to know, okay, it's not only me, it is 4 other people who are also reading this letter. Now, this notation is normally made below the enclosure notation. Right? The manner in which it is written as CCs, small cc, capital CC, small cc with the colon, or the capital CC with the colon. Okay, the blind carbon copy notation or BCC is written when the sender does not want the receiver to know that the same letter is the same mail is being sent to someone else. And that is what we do in email also. No? We write the mail to a particular person, and then if we want to keep somebody in the loop also, we put CC. But we don't want the receiver to know who else are we also sending it to. Then we write BCC. Then we mark it as, then we put it as BCC. And then the email of the other person to whom we are also sending the mail to, we write it under the BCC. Because I don't want the receiver of the mail to know who else is receiving the letter. If I want the recipient of the mail to know who else is also receiving the letter or the mail, then CC. But if I don't want the receiver or the recipient of the mail to know who else is also receiving the letter, I don't want the recipient of the mail to know that, okay, who else is also receiving this mail, then I mark it as the BCC. Okay, this notation does not appear on the original one. Right, it is typed on the upper left hand corner of the letter. In the upper left hand corner of the letter, you write it as BCC. Right, so both CC and BCC notation should appear on the writer's copy of the letter. Right, so whatever is the writer's copy of the letter, there it could be appearing, the CC or the BCC. So you just write it as BCC. You don't write whom, you mark it as the BCC, because you don't want the recipient to come to know about the same. Right, then say when I wrote the entire letter and then I realized, oh, I missed out this point. Nowadays, so no problem. Word may you take the cursor over there and you add it over there. But say there is no such option of, you're writing the physical paper, writing it in the hard copy, right, on the paper. So now there is no option of, just adding something, it will look bad, right? So you write it as a postscript. And this is the last part of the letter, which is an afterthought. So postscript, what does it say? This is like an afterthought or anything which you missed writing in the main letter. Right? Anything, right? Many a times the writer forgets to include an important detail and wishes to include it at the end. And this technique is adopted when there is a need to jot a point as a postscript. And occasionally, it says certain writers deliberately omit a detail to which they want the reader to pay attention. Deliberately, janbooch ke, knowingly. And omit a detail to which they want the reader to pay attention and include the point at the end of the letter in the form of a postscript. Right? The letter PS represents the word postscript and are written as. Right? So anything towards the end of the letter which you want to write, you write it as PS, an afterthought, or which you forgot writing it in the main later, or deliberately you want to write it towards the end so that the reader pays attention to that point. Right? So that comes as a postscript. Right, and then as I told you, these are not any content as such, but these are two additional points over there, right, wherein we have the spacing and we also have the punctuation style, right? So we have the spacing and the punctuation style, right? So now spacing of your letter, right? One, it could be the full block style, it could be the full block style, entire letter written in the left hand margin. The entire letter, all notations and paragraphs begin on the left hand margin, right? So that's the full block style, right? The entire letter written under the left hand margin. Right, second one is the semi block style. So it's a combination of left and right margin. Right, semi block style. Now it's going to be a combination of the, when you see the example, this will become further clear. Right, so the left and right hand margin. Right, an open block style, and where the open block style, right? So wherein you could just make any indentations or paragraphs, right? So we'll just look into the three styles, so which will give you further clarity, right? So full block style. And now spacing, properly space the layout of the business letters you write, well, space between the heading, the greeting, each paragraph, the closing, and your signature. Single space your letter and leave a space between each paragraph. Right, when sending typed letters, leave 2 spaces before and after your written signature. Right, so that it talks about the typed letters. Now, full block style. Okay, in this form of writing a letter, all the notations and paragraphs, all the notations and paragraphs begin on the left hand margin. So if you look at this particular example over here, full letter left and left orientation. Left orientation. Right, so what does it say on the left hand margin? This is comparatively easy to type as no paragraphs are made, and it also saves on the typing time. It looks neat and has a business like tone to it. So full block, full left hand margin. So IMMI, say this is the logo, the logo of the sender, of the company, of the person who is sending the letter. Right, so it's on the letterhead, so no need to write the sender's name and address. Right, then you have the date. Right, then after that you have the date. Right, then you have the inside line. Now what is there in the inside line? The name, the designation, and the address of the receiver. The name, the designation, and the address of the receiver. Right, so Mr. Rohan Bhatt, General Manager, Industrial Consultancy Services, Daryaganj, New Delhi. Right, then the opening salutation, Dear Mr. Bhatt. Right, so now you have the opening salutation. Right, then the subject, enlistment in the directory of the industrial consultants. Enlistment in the directory of the industrial consultants. Right, now over here, please refer to your letter dated 1425. Right, so reference has been incorporated in the body of the letter, and a reference number has been incorporated in the body, in the main message. Right, dated 26 November 2021 on the captioned subject. Right, so now you'll start developing your English writing paper, letter writing skills over here. Right, so please refer to your letter number 1425 dated November 26, 2021 on the caption subject. In this connection, we wish to inform you that IMMI, this particular logo, the name of the company, right, on behalf of all India financial institutions, maintains a directory of financial consultants with the main objective of providing guidance to financial institution, bank, government department, entrepreneurs, etc. for selecting suitable candidates for their consultancy need. So more of an introduction. What is our institution about? The enlistment of the consultants in the directory is generally done on the basis of their experience, duly supported by documentary evidence in the form of reports, study notes, drawings, etc. are prepared by them for their clients in the field in which they seek enlistment. Right, so now you're giving the details, the main body of the report. Right, keeping in the view above in view, you may please return the enclosed application form. So enclosed application form, right, duly filled in along with the necessary enclosures to enable us to consider your request for enlistment. We assure that the report etc. submitted by you will be in strict confidence by us. Right, thank you. Right, or thanking you. Right, so that's the closing of the letter. Right, yours sincerely. Right, so this is the conclusion part, then this is the complimentary closing. Yours sincerely, Ritika Mahajan, General Manager, and then after that you give over your the right person who has signed the letter or so, right, NMP, the initials or so, right, enclosures, and then CC, to whom this letter has been marked. And a carbon copy, Mr. Mahavir Sood. Right, so what we need to mainly see in this report is that it is entirely left oriented, left hand margin. Right, so this is referred to as the full block style. Full block style. Then next one we have is the semi block style. A little bit left, little bit right. So if you see the date over here is on the right. And their date was also on the left, na? December, everything was on the left in full block. Now your date is on the right. And December 3, right? Then same, Rohan Bhatt, dear Mr. Bhatt, subject, introduction, thanking you, yours sincerely, Ritika Mahajan, General Manager, right? So these two things coming on the right. Right, so that's the semi block, and this style of writing a letter is also very common as it encompasses the traditional style of writing and brings together with it the ease of formulating the message that is present in a full block style. Right, in a semi-block style of writing a letter, lists, addresses or quotations are incorporated by indenting the same. So little bit of indentation done, not that everything left hand margin. Okay, right, that's the semi-block style. And then you have the open style. Right, this is the most traditional as well as the informal style of writing the letter. An informal style, right? It does not adhere to the fixed paragraph formulation scheme. All the paragraphs are indented with some notations on the left and some on the right. However, gradually the style of writing is getting outmoded and outdated. Right? So again, right hand margin, then left hand, right? Then subject written in the center. Right, then the subject written in the center. Now each paragraph before that, these two finger space being left over there. Thank you, then yours sincerely over here, and then the left orientation. Right, so it says no. And a subject written in the middle or so, it says no. Right, this is the open style, and this style of writing is getting outmoded. Some on the left, some on the right. But again, what is the difference over here? In semi-block also it is some on the left, some on the right. But there before each paragraph they are not doing, leaving the two finger space, or the subject is not being written in the center also. It is either left or right. There is no two finger spacing, or there is no center alignment. A semi-block either on the left or on the right, not in center or not leaving any finger space or so. That is semi-block. And open style to full freestyle. Now open style is full freestyle. So it says it is more of an open and an informal style of writing the letters. And writing in center, leaving two finger space before starting a paragraph also. Right, so this is how the spacing. So it could be the full block style, it could be the semi-block style, or it could be the open style of writing, of putting the spaces in the letters. So accordingly the spacing, these three categories have been created. What are the three categories which are created? Right, what are the three categories created? Full block, semi-block, or the open. Full block, semi-block, and the open. And then they again mention about this punctuation style, that whether to put a comma, whether to put a colon, and those type of discussion. What we do, we go by the general parlance. We see 10 formats of the letter, 10 letters. So whatever is followed in the 10 letter, we generally follow that. But here they've given some particular style. Right? When it comes to writing a business letter, you have two primary styles to choose from. Right? First, known as the closed punctuation, requires the strict use of the traditional punctuation, such as colon after the salutation in your business letter. This is the type of punctuation you learnt in the English class. Right? So open punctuation is a much more relaxed way of writing. Choose this option and you can give those pesky colons a miss. So no punctuation, no commas used in the open punctuation, and closed punctuation, all the traditional, the colons and the commas being used. Okay, so what is the difference between this open and closed punctuation? In a nutshell, to summarize, closed punctuation uses terminal punctuation marks, while open punctuation leaves them out. So in open you don't use the punctuation, in closed you do use the punctuation. Terminal punctuation refers to the commas and the colon you typically use at the end of the phrase, such as the colon after the salutation and a dear sir, and then the colon and a comma after the complimentary clause, yours sincerely, yours respectfully. With open punctuation, you simply leave these non-essential punctuation marks out. So no colon, no comma. So colon and comma, if it is used, then it is closed punctuation. And you're not using the colons and the comma, then that is the open punctuation styles. And that's the open punctuation. Right, so dear Miss Davenport, and no comma. It was a pleasure to meet you at the expo last week. As discussed, I sincerely believe that the sales support suite produced by Acme Corporation can greatly streamline your lead generation. If you're still interested in our service, I would like to meet you with you at your offices next week to walk you through a demo and discuss the best plan to suit your needs. Would 2 p.m. on Friday work for you? Sincerely, Jane Doe. And sincerely, no putting comma, no colon, nothing, right? That's the open punctuation style. And that's the open punctuation style. You just miss out on the pesky colons and the commas, and you can give those pesky colons a miss and just eliminate those. No comma, no colon, then that is open punctuation style. You use the traditional commas and colon, that is the closed punctuation style. Okay, and then after that, now we come, after we've studied so much about the format of the business letter, now let us come to a full-fledged business letter. And now let's come to a full-fledged business letter. Right, so example of a business letter, the Amelius Company E308. And as you can standardize some what you say, a particular name and the name and address of the sender and receiver, which you will use in your answers, unless and until it is specified in the question. If it is specified in question, then we'll have to use that. Okay, right, so the Amelius Company E308, Surya Vihar, Kapasera border, Gurgaon 122002. Right, so this is what the sender's name and address. Do I write it one more time? And it's always better. The more the number of times we write it, the more engraved it will be. It will get into your mind. Right, so the sender's name and address. Right, then you have the date and the reference number. And so these three put together are the heading. And this is the heading. Right, then after that we have something called as the inside line. And inside line. In inside line, what do we have? We have the receivers. Sorry. Right, we have the receiver's name, designation, and the address. And a receiver's name, designation, and the address. Name, designation, and the address. And so Mr. Suresh Mehta, MD, Premium Industries, 416 Sector 14, Gurgaon 122016, sir. And so what is sir? This is the opening salutation. And so simply sir with a colon. And so opening salutation. And then you have the subject line. Right, next after that the subject line. And so opening salutation, subject line. Then trainings are an integral part of any organization. While there are many vendors who do provide the training, there are few who actually get into reviewing the process, right? So this is the introduction in the message part and in the content part of the letter. Right. We at Amelius believe that a training review provides both the trainer and the trainee a handle on what happened, success measures, and ways in which the training can be augmented, increased, right, improved. Apart from 360-degree feedback on the training and the trainer, we have developed various tools for assessment. Okay, so this is now the main body of the message. Right, we are keen to interact with you and discuss the feasibility of working with your organization. And so you're now giving your expectations from the receiver, right? So this is the conclusion, the conclusion, right? Then sincerely yours, right? So this is nothing but the complimentary clause, the complimentary clause, right? The Amelius Company, right? So after the signature, then again you have the name of the sender and a name, and also you could be having the designation and also the department of the sender and what we had seen, right? The designation and department could also be given, and then the enclosures, right? CC and a Mahavir Sood, and then PS, please return the enclosed document by post by January 2015, right? So sorry, January, you need to update it, say January 2000, right? This was November 2000, right? So 22, and by January 2022. Please return the enclosed document by post by January 2022. Right? Are you getting that? Right? So that's the example of a business letter. An example of a business letter. Right? So sender's name and address, reference number, and a date, reference number. Right? Then receiver's name, designation, address. Then the opening salutation, and opening salutation. Then the subject. Then the introduction, body, and the conclusion. Complimentary clause, and then the signature, and then you could be having the postscript, the enclosures, the notations, and those. Yes, postscript, enclosure, notations, and those. Right? Are you little bit getting familiar with the contents of a formal letter? Right? The layout of a formal letter? Okay. Then again some, gyan, some knowledge regarding the do's and don'ts for a formal letter. Right? Use the heading to provide vital information about the company. So sender's name and address, date and reference number. Forget to provide this information if the official letterhead pad is not being used. Right? So if the official letterhead pad is not being used, then you have to give this information. You cannot forget giving this information in that case. Right? Indicate the name of the recipient. And indicate the name of the recipient, and it says as far as possible try to find out the name of the recipient. Right align the recipient's name and the address details. So they are saying right align the recipient's name and the address detail, but rather we can't consider it. So is right align, it says don't and don't. So rather this is the list of the do's and this is the list of the don'ts. So never right align. The recipient's name and address detail. Indicate name of recipient, very good practice. Then use a colon after subject, yes. Underline subject, no. Follow the same formatting style in close and salutation. So what you use for the complimentary close and opening salutation, it says same formatting, yes. Mismatch the close and salutation, no. In a request letter, compose a message in a systematic and interrelated, coherent manner, yes. Give the impression of a convoluted, long-winded request, no. And a confusing, no. Attach letters of transmittal to business documents, yes. Omit to state in the letter what is being sent, enclosures also, no. State the best news first in a good business letter, first in a good news letter, yes. Be long-winded in a good news letter, no. Condense messages from the mail, yes, and painstakingly keep to the salutation and close format in an email, right? So no. And keep to the salutation and close format in an email, no. So email, it says there are different parameters which are applicable. Okay, right? So anyways, like from whatever we have discussed so far, whatever we have understood, analyzed, remember the crux of our discussion is this. The format of the business letter, the layout of the business letter. And what is the format of the business letter? Let us try it one time. Sender's name and address. If it is on the logo letterhead of the company, logo given, no need to put this one. Right, then after the sender's name and address, right, you have the date and you have the reference number. And so these three put together are referred to as the heading. These could be sender's name and address always on the left. If you're following a semi-block style, date and reference number could be coming on the right. Right, then after this particular date and reference number, now you have the inside line. What is there in the inside line? The receiver's name, designation and the address, right? Name, designation and the address of the receiver, right? So this is the inside line of the repo, yes, of the letter, right? This is the inside line of the letter, right? So right, if we come over here, right, so date, reference number, then you have the inside line, that is the receiver's name, designation and address. Right, then if you don't know the name of the person and if it is for a particular department, right, then you could be having the next one as the attention line, right, the attention line. Right, then after the attention line, what is the next one which we have over there is the opening salutation. Dear sir, dear madam, or dear Mr. Shetty, dear Mrs. Shetty. So opening salutation. After the opening salutation, we have the subject line, subject with the colon, and in brief and concise you explain what is it that the letter is about. Right, then you have the main message divided under introduction, the body and the conclusion, thanking you with warm regards, conclusion. Right, then after that you have the complimentary close, yours sincerely, yours truly, yours respectfully, with sincere thanks, right, with appreciation, right, with warm regards, right. So complimentary close, right. Then after the complimentary close, the signature along with the name and the designation of the sender, and a name, designation, and it also could be the department of the sender, and a department of the sender. And then after the, yes, the signature, then you could be having the references, the enclosures, and the references, then the enclosures, right, then the notations, right, then the postscript, and then we also studied about the spacing and the punctuation style, and open closed punctuation style, and also the spacing, the full block style, the semi block style, and the open style. Right, getting little clear for everybody, not expected that completely clear, still there might be little bit of a, yes, what you say, little bit of not that much of clarity type of a thing. But as we continue to see more and more letters, and as you continue to practice writing more and more letters, and this format will get fixed into your mind. And so sender's name and address, right, then the reference number, date, right, then after that the receiver's name, designation, and the address, right, then the opening salutation, right, it's the subject line, and so dear sir, whatever, right, dear sir oblique madam, right, so opening salutation, and then the subject, the message, then the complimentary close, and the signature. Right, you could also be having the attention line after the receiver's name, designation, address. So if you don't know the receiver's name, then there would be the attention line. So this is like visiting, may or may not. Reference name, may or may not. But these other contents, they are always going to be there. Message, complimentary close, signature. These four again, may or may not. The references, enclosures, notations, and the postscripts. Right, so in next class again we continue with our discussion now on the kinds of the business letters. And so in this chapter we've seen what's a letter, the formal, informal letter, and then after that the format, points to be kept in mind while drafting the formal letters, do's and don'ts of the business letter, right, and then also the format of the business letter, right. So yes, so this is the layout of the business letter which we have just finished discussing, right. So next class we will be discussing about the kinds of the business letter, right. So bye bye, thank you so much for listening to the class so attentively.